Question, would folks play a game with similar systems to Persona but like built on suburban US childhoods? That's a good question. I feel like... So like... In general, I feel like the visual novel audience and JRPG audience is used to a really, like... It's not a surprise that Japanese mechanics, in terms of game design, like tropes, mesh well with Japanese characters and Japanese like writing, right? Like, because it's the same teams and same creators doing all this shit. So you'd have to find a way of presenting a suburban setting, like a suburban American setting, in ways that still kind of make sense, right? Like if it's a suburban American setting, but all the characters feel like they're in an anime, that might be super weird. On the other hand, I don't think there are a whole lot of great blueprints for how like generally non-anime or non-manga or non-Japanese versions of visual novels are written and paced out in so much. But I think the concept is dope. Nice throw. I mean, Earthbound has some of the setting, right? But the concept behind Earthbound is definitely not like Persona-style visual novel-ish, dating sim-ish, right? I fucking love Earthbound. But it's not character-driven. And like, Earthbound is so weird insofar as the way it's in like a Japanese interpretation of Americana as a setting, that like I think it reads super alien to a lot of Americans. Like, even though if you're used to Japanese games and shit, like you're gonna see the shit in Earthbound and be like, oh, this quaint suburbia is obviously meant to be America. But I think that if you're not too familiar with like the difference that the difference in Earthbound style and setting compared to other JRPGs, it actually doesn't read as American to lots of Americans. Which is funny because it has so many explicit references to like American culture. Like all the monster names are funny. Like you got like hippies and shit, you know? Oh, good. Oh, nice. Yeah, he had that one called out. Nice burst. I don't think that Earthbound is satirical in the sense that the setting is an object of satire. The main thing I think about Earthbound that reads as like irreverent is basically that everyone communicates in the most straightforwardly shitty version of themselves. And I like to think that is because Ness, as a child, is just hearing either these shitty kids or these shitty adults talk, and he is correctly making sense of the situation. Peace out, Judson. Thanks for coming through. It's good to have you. And the funny thing of that, of course, is that like a kid wouldn't actually hear all that stuff, right? In Earthbound, they wouldn't make sense to them in the way that Earthbound jokes largely go over your head if you play it when you're 10. Like, you know, it is obviously written by an adult who actually knows what someone is saying in not so many words. And come to think of it, that actually might be one of the reasonings for the American setting, right? Like, in Japan, it's rare for adults to speak their mind, right? Everything you say is often couched between layers of politeness and pleasantry, so you can communicate meaning without having to be rude about it. And it's a very important skill to have if you're communicating in Japanese. But, you know, you use Americans who are kind of notoriously blunt as a setting, especially compared to Japanese, and in terms of how each country's media conceives of them and so on. And like, maybe that's an easy excuse for the adult characters in this game to kind of be overtly shitty. Also, Jen, a J-style American teenager visual novel would be fantastic. I'm thinking like maybe Babysitters Club, but like a little bit older. I would read the Babysitters Club manga, is what I'm saying. Yeah, Celestrio, I think, so the lobby should be open, it might be full. And if it's full, you just gotta wait. But yeah, the lobby's called West Coast, so if you see it in the PC listings, just hop right in. Speaking of which, Jen, as a writer's nerd, I imagine you've done, so I shouldn't assume. I would hope that as someone who is such an amazing writer and appreciator of words, that you've looked into the Shigesato Etoy, who's the creator of Earthbound and the Mother series. But if you haven't, I highly recommend looking up, and this goes for all of y'all, if you appreciate the written word. Etoy is a little bit of a weirdo. He's written some short stories and I think some novels. He also is the creator of Shigesato Itoi's Bass Fishing for N64. But he has also written the he's done the copywriting, like the taglines for movie posters, specifically for Studio Ghibli movies. And there's a website out there that has all of the taglines. And if you go to the Ghibli Movie Museum, you can actually see Itoi's handwritten letters where he gives them both the tagline and the explanation. And it's stuff like, I think for Kiki's delivery service, the tagline is like, in Japanese, it's basically, I was a little sad, but I'm okay now. And that's what shows up on the movie poster when they're advertising the movie. But I was like, I've never been a fan of like advertising, right? Like copywriting, until I read his work on the Ghibli stuff, and then I was like, this is like it's he got paid to be poetic, which is super cool. American Mystery Teens, the manga. Yes, I'm super into this. Alright, Jen. Someday you and I will tag team this and we'll get... we'll see what kind of team we can put together for either a comic or a series of short stories or a video game or something. Alright, thanks, Raul, man. I'll check that out. Good looking out. You got the hookup. Alright, peace out, Mojo. You can get in some Persona before bed. Ooh, nice catch. Also, Jen, the really fun thing about doing Tween Girl Mystery Lit in a more Persona-ish environment is that then you actually get to progress the relationships between the characters. And I always felt like, I didn't read much of Babysitters Club, but like, what I remember about a lot of those books was that the characters were essentially impermanent. Like, or they're kind of fixed, rather. So like, they didn't maybe it's because the writers didn't want you to have to read any of the books in order or something, but I never got the sense that the characters' relationships were like growing as their various stories progressed. But in the visual novel, like that's the progression of the game. Also, if we're doing this, Claudia Kishimoto has to be the main character, or whatever her name was. Oh my god, that's supposed to be dead angle. Oh, good shit. That can kill? Yeah. Nice. And then once we're done using this as a proof of concept that like classic American kids literary IPs can translate over to the genre or the medium of video games effectively, and that it exposes a whole new range of young kids to be able to share in the same stories of characters that their parents remember from the good old days. That's when we do fucking Babysitters Club versus the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and so-and-so, the fighting game. For too long, these characters have gone without knowing the pleasure of a good old-fashioned fucking slugfest.